Hey Spain lovers, what's the experience of moving to Spain like? The ups, the downs, the joys, the challenges. Today we're going to share with you our experience of moving to Spain. Well, in my case, moving to Spain.
And in my case, moving back to Spain.
And warning, it's about to get personal. So venga, let's go. Hey guys, I'm James Blick.
And I'm Yolanda Martin.
And welcome to Spain Revealed. This channel's all about how to experience Spain like a local. And now I get a lot of messages on this channel or through my Instagram of people who are moving to Spain soon, thinking about moving to Spain, and they're really curious about what the experience is like. So we wanted to make a video about that.
Yeah, so we wanted to share our experience with you. So if you're planning the move or maybe wondering what it would be like, you can learn a little from us.
Now in the future, I do want to make some videos on the more detailed aspects of moving here, visas, getting a job, all that sort of stuff. We're going to touch on our experience of all of those today, but it's not going to be full of, practical tips. That's not what this video is. This video is a personal look at what it was like for us, the practicalities of moving here, but also the emotional side.
Our journey, right?
Exactly, our journey. And obviously because I'm a New Zealander.
And I'm a Spaniard.
Well, we kind of feel like we need to kick off by telling you how we met and that story, so it makes sense of kind of why we both moved to Spain together, because obviously you're from here, Yoly.
Right.
So Yoly, how did we meet?
So we met in France, in Toulouse. I was working there. You were also working there as a, assistant de langue.
As a language assistant, helping people teach there. This was 2005.
2005.
2005.
Yes.
So we'd both decided, I'd decided to move from New Zealand to move to France for a year. I don't know, the European dream. I wanted to stretch my legs a little bit, learn it or practice my French.
And I have finished my degree in university and wanted to really, become more fluent in French, really.
So we both wound up in Toulouse, and we met in late 2005 through a mutual friend.
Yes.
And he was showing off to his friends, who were Yoly and her friends. He was saying he's got so many friends, including a guy from New Zealand.
So I was like, I wondered.
You were like, what's this Kiwi guy like? I don't know if you knew the word Kiwi back then.
No, I don't think so.
And so we met at a bar, and I still remember the first words you said to me, Yoly. What were they?
Oh God, so I said, my mom is from Guadalajara and my dad is from Seville. Ole.
Literally did the flamenco thing, like walked up and said, my mother, my father, ole. And I was like, love at first sight. And I moved in about a week later into your house.
Yeah, pretty much.
We decided we were going to move to New Zealand, but we did a little kind of 3 or 4 month stint in Madrid
just
in 2005.
to really show James what Spain was like.
But that period in Madrid, I don't really count it because I didn't really develop my knowledge of the country back then. I was a filmmaker back in New Zealand. I was looking forward to getting back to New Zealand to make films. We finally did move back to New Zealand late 2006. And we were there for 4 years. And in New Zealand, we just missed Spain, right?
Yeah, the energy, the vitality of it all. Yeah.
You were homesick?
I was homesick. You were Spain sick.
Exactly, kind of. So obviously something had happened in those 4 months or so living in Madrid that I had gotten like, there's something here that I'm curious, I want to discover.
Yeah.
So we were living in New Zealand and we were like, you know what? We want to go back to Europe. We want to go back to Spain. How are we going to figure that out? So as a New Zealander, as a Kiwi, I could not live legally in Spain, but I had a secret weapon, Yoly. Obviously, I loved Yoly as well, but there was a certain ease there, and so we decided to get married. Nowadays, you can do what's called pareja de hecho, which is civil union, but that didn't exist in Spain back then in what was 2010. It existed. Do you remember? It existed.
Yes, but it wasn't really working.
Yeah, it was one of these things that you get used to in Spain, these bureaucratic kind of black holes, where the EU law allows people who are in a civil union to get residency in Spain, obviously if one person was Spanish.
Just the same way as if it was married.
But Spain hadn't implemented the kind of the mechanisms to do it. The registry. There was no like office to go to. So we had to get married, which I say had to. Obviously, again, I loved Yoly. I loved her. I wanted to get married, but it was something that we needed to do. So. But it wasn't very romantic, I think, the moment of getting, what did it look, how did that kind of play out?
The engagement?
The engagement.
Oh, that was beautiful. It was so romantic. So we were sitting side by side at our computers, just trying to figure out how the hell to move back here to Spain. And we were just kind of checking and civil union is not working still. This is not working still. Okay, so James just turned to me and said, should we get married? And I said, I guess so.
not very romantic. We're pretty romantic people. Our wedding was wonderful. We had a wedding on an island, invited some friends, had our first dance on a picnic table. So we got married in New Zealand because literally there is no bureaucracy in New Zealand. So it was going to be easier to go through all the paperwork. That was going to be easier than coming to Spain on a tourist visa, then getting married and all that kind of stuff. So we decided to do it that way. And then when we got here, when we arrived in Spain, we went via New York en route and spent a week staying with our friends. And if anyone knows the Coney Island Polar Bear Club, I swam with the polar bears in snowy water. In January. But anyway, tangent. We moved here. And when did we arrive? January
2011.
I was married, but I didn't have residency as such yet. But it wasn't hard for me to get it.
No, you just got your NIE, your residency card, and that was pretty easy for you.
It was pretty easy. There was no kind of discussion about it because, again, I was married. It's kind of like marriage opens all the doors. So we're in Spain. I'm legal, you're obviously legal. Now it's time to find a home. So for the first 6 weeks of our time here in Madrid, we lived with Yoly's parents. And so that was my first experience of really Spanish family life, of all the things that I sometimes talk about in these videos. Slippers, exactly. The idea of you have to wear your slippers at home, you're not allowed to go barefoot. You know, all the kind of the cultural norms that I was starting to discover and that we talk about on this channel. Interesting, I wrote an article for a New Zealand magazine about the experience, and I'm gonna link to that below. So if you want to read more in depth about the experience of living with my in-laws, then you can check that out below. You're obviously living with your parents, which you know, I was sort of enjoying the whole experience, but you were like, I want to live on my own.
Yeah, I was ready to find an apartment, obviously.
And what did that look like, that process of looking for an apartment? Because I don't remember, because, you know, I speak Spanish now, but my Spanish was rusty back then, so you kind of took over.
I took over, yeah. I was the one in charge, you know, all of a sudden. And so, yeah, I was, we were looking for the apartment. It was hard because we didn't have pay slips. We didn't have like a record of like a history of, you know, money in Spain and all of that. I had been a freelancer for 5 years, and you know, in New Zealand. So you know, owners of apartments didn't really care. So we couldn't really afford, you know, really nice places. All we could afford were an interesting, tacky, and like just lame apartments.
An interesting, tacky, and lame. I like that combination of words. It's true though.
Finally, we found one that we loved, but we lost it to Spanish bureaucracy. And you can't even remember that.
I can't even remember that. That's like totally blocked out. We talk about this apartment that we lost, and I can't remember that apartment.
I still like, you know, crave for that apartment. But well, finally we find another one that was equally tacky, but it was big and
uninteresting and lame.
Yes, as well. And so, yeah, I didn't like it so much. It was also, I was thinking of cigarettes, but hey, we were there for a year. Yeah,
it was actually near where we live now. It's not this apartment. We're there for, I loved it, you know, because it was very Spanish. It was full of kind of an old lady had been living there. It was full of kind of old lady things. I remember taking the painting of the Virgin Mary off from above the bed. It was all like, you know, it was kind of very Spanish. There was a crucifix on the door as you went and the whole deal. And one of the interesting things was suddenly I was not in control. When we lived in New Zealand, I paid all the bills. I kind of knew how it worked, bank accounts, you know, I kind of ran that stuff. And then suddenly we arrived here and my language was rusty. I'd been practicing a little bit of Spanish in New Zealand, but it was really rusty. And suddenly I wasn't in control and you were.
Yeah, I was. So, you know, we landed and it was like, well, Yoly's in charge, you know, so it was actually kind of empowering and I really enjoyed it. It was interesting to just be like the one responsible, the one making the calls and picking up the phone and, you know, for everything and anything really.
And I think what's interesting is if you're moving here, obviously I was able to rely on Yoly for all the bureaucracy, you know, because it's really hard to understand those processes and those systems.
And there's never one single answer really.
No, exactly. You learn that very quickly that when it comes to interfacing with Spanish bureaucracy, I was here like, but what is the answer? What is the form? What is the thing? And it's almost like that, it's very Kafkaesque. It's like maybe that answer doesn't exist. Like, what do you need to take to the person to get your residency card? There's no master list, it feels like. So you know, I was able to rely on you because of a lot of the complicated language stuff, but I can imagine if you were coming here and neither of you were Spanish, you would probably have to really spend a lot of time to figure it out, find out from people who have had that experience before, or pay someone, because it can be really challenging. So we're legal, we have a home, now we need jobs. Next step. So when it comes to working in Spain, our experience was a little different for both of us. You know, if you're working remote in your home country and you're able to continue doing that in Spain, then you kind of have it easy. It just comes down to kind of time differences and things like that. And that's been your experience.
Yeah, that was exactly my case. So I have been working as a translator in New Zealand, as a freelance translator for agencies. So I kept the clients, I kept the New Zealand clients, and I just kept working for them. So yeah, just the time difference, which actually sometimes even works better because they send me the work and then they get it overnight, so that's great. So yeah, I just kept doing that for a few years, and then of course my flamenco tours came a little bit later, and yeah, so it was pretty easy for me.
For me, it was much harder because I was working in advertising in New Zealand. I was directing TV commercials, as I mentioned before. I have a filmmaking background, and when I came here, the plan was to continue working in advertising, to direct TV commercials, but I didn't really like advertising very much. It wasn't something I enjoyed. So 3 months into our arrival here, I quit. I quit my job and was like, I'm going to be a travel writer, because I was falling in love with Spain. And I was like, I'm learning so much. I was buying so many books. I was like, I want to talk, I want to tell people about this place.
And you had always been a bit of a storyteller and
That's
a writer.
True. Yeah, I've written screenplays and I'd written articles. Exactly, that's true. So it didn't just sort of come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But it's like, I could live as a travel writer here. So for a year, I tried to make money as a travel writer, and it was hard. We had not very much money at all for that year. It was very, very challenging.
Yes.
But slowly things started to happen, and then that flowed through into guiding and then the founding of Devour Tours. But what's interesting that I've found is when you move countries and you have that physical separation from your kind of job, people back home, it's very easy to reinvent yourself. And that's what I did. I had this feeling of liberty that I could just sort of, from one day to the next, say, you know what, I'm not in advertising anymore, I'm now a travel writer.
Yeah.
And if I had done that in New Zealand, I feel like, all your friend groups, the people you see
People
at the
around
gym,
you.
they're like, hang on, what are you
Judging
doing?
or-
Judging, exactly, almost like you failed or something. But there's nobody around, you don't know anyone yet. So there's this wonderful opportunity to do new things and maybe take it as an opportunity to kind of fully realize kind of who you think you want to be. So I really loved that experience. Just thinking about this idea of getting a job in Spain and all this sort of stuff, start learning Spanish as soon as possible. It's going to open up so many more doors for you. And it's hard. It's hard to learn. I mean, it's easier because we speak in Spanish. It's challenging. You really have to push yourself. So before you move here, really start doing this. The other thing I would say is there is always work, if you're an English speaker, to teach English in Spain. Just keep that in the back of your mind. Even if you need that as a stepping stone opportunity, I would say. So I'm legal, we have a home, we're working, kind of figuring out our careers. But there's something also really important to talk about is how does it feel when you're kind of arrived in Spain? What is that experience like in the first 2 months, 6 months, a year? I mean, 8 years, still going. And I like to think of it as almost like a honeymoon period. It's very invigorating moving to a new country if you're happy to make that move and willingly. I remember that first year as just, everything was new, everything is exciting. You're like a child.
You feel like a baby, right?
You do.
I was feeling like a teenager, maybe.
Exactly. You'd done your baby time in Spain and you're back for your middle years or something like that. And it's true. I like the baby thing. It's true. Everything is new. The language is new. Every experience is new. Every day is a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, an adventure.
And if you're ready for that, and open to that and excited about that, then it's amazing. So I was just soaking up so much about the food. I loved going into the bars. Obviously, my focus on food and wine and this channel came from all of that. Loved learning about the history, filled bookshelves that we have here with books about Spain. Just the thirst to understand this place and kind of get it was just so wonderful. And so how was it for you coming back?
So for me, of course, everything was a bit less new than to you, but it felt great. It felt like fun, exciting. I was excited to be here. Also having you discovering all of this helped me understand again, or understand at a deeper level who we are as Spaniards.
That's a really good point, because I feel like as a guide or as this channel, so much of what I talk about has come through the experience of my maybe book learning and experiences, but also what I've learned through you.
Yeah, exactly. So it felt like also a reaffirmation of like, yes, I want to be here, and also it felt like a relief, to be closer to my family again. That was very important.
So there's this wonderful energy, but when you move to a country, you also start to see some of the cracks.
Sure.
And you start to see that, it's not a paradise, nowhere it is. So particularly in Spain, I started to become aware of the corruption here that there has been in politics and continues to be. Hopefully it's getting better. Also, customer service can be a little different from back in New Zealand. So that could be frustrating, the customer service levels at times. But what I think is key is that you keep that sense of wonder. You don't want to become, one of these sort of bitchy expats who there's people who live here, it's like, they complain all the time. It's like, why are you living here? So you want to keep that wonder, but also not be just naive about it. You want to kind of understand there's challenges in any country. But making friends, I think we should talk about that next. So we've kind of talked about how you feel like a bit of a child when you're moving to this new place. And like a child, you need to make friends. It's such an important part. turns out it's much easier to make friends at 5 years old than 35 years old. You know, people already have their friend groups and things like that. You would have experienced this in New Zealand.
Yeah, same deal. Yeah. And also, I didn't want to be just hanging out with the Spanish community. You know, you want to be hanging out with locals.
Exactly. And it is really, really challenging. So one thing I would say is that if you are coming here, be ready to work hard to make friends. You go to meetups, join groups, it's kind of like dating through online apps in a way, right? Yeah, play sport. That's a really good idea. And so I think that's really, really important because, you know, people have those set groups. I have made friends now. It's true that the friends you make when you're, 30, when you move here, say, are different compared to the friends that you made when you're at university or school.
Well, you see them much less to start with.
Well, they already have their lives. They have, families
children,
and things like that. You know, I have people that I really love now around me, but I don't see them as much as maybe if I had gone to university with them and things like that. And it's just the nature of kind of how friendship works when you make it later in life. And I think you touched on a good thing of you want to make sure that you don't just end up in like an expat group, because that's not going to be great for your integration. It's really easy to make friends in those kind of groups,
of course.
But it's not going to be great for your language either. So you've got to make local friends. But it's really hard to make Spanish friends because, again, it depends on your language level. You don't want to be the guy that's holding up the conversation because your language is not there.
And again, learn Spanish.
Oh my God, learn Spanish. So important. You're my secret weapon here, Yoly. So you had friends, obviously, from university.
A really extensive network.
So I kind of plugged into that. And a lot of my Spanish friends come through that. But it's still hard. You still never quite feel like yourself in a second language.
Be yourself, right? I always felt that in New Zealand. We were there for 4 years. My English was fine. But I still feel like I'm not myself. I'm two different people. In Spanish and in English.
It is really hard. I remember when we first got here, and I would spend time with Yoly's university friends, and I would say to Yoly at the end of it, I would say, "But do they know that I'm funny?"
You still ask that.
Because you are a different person in a different language. But just realize you sound better in that foreign language than you think you do. And although you might feel like a bit of an idiot, or people that aren't understanding or really seeing you, they kind of are. There's so much more to it than just whether you get the grammar right and things like that. So just feel comfortable with that, but keep working on that language and keep looking for friends. Really important. Now that's friendship, but what about family? Now obviously when you move countries, you're gonna be away from your family. And I think that's a really important thing for us to talk about because we both had experience of that. When we moved to New Zealand for those 4 years, you left your family behind.
Yeah, of course. And so, I felt homesick and, it was hard at times. I would speak to my parents on Skype maybe like once a week or so. But, I would feel so nervous every time some member of the family got sick or, so it was really kind of hard going. So be ready, to have some tough times in that aspect.
I remember you would cry sometimes.
I would cry sometimes, maybe once every week I would cry right after speaking to them. So it was hard, but be ready for some of that.
Also, if you were living in the UK and you moved to Spain, going back home to see the family is a couple hours on a plane. But Spain and New Zealand are direct opposites in the world. They're the antipodes. So literally 30 hours of travel, and you would go back to Spain from New Zealand
every year or so.
But you can't do it that often. And for me, similar. Coming here, to the other side of the world, I miss my family a lot. I've gone back to New Zealand a number of times, try and get back every sort of 18 months or so. My family's come to visit. My parents are obviously in New Zealand. My sister's there with my nieces and nephews. My brother lives in London, so him and his family, and I have two nieces there, they're closer. But it's hard, and I think it's just the nature of the beast. You have to trade these things up. Happily, I come from a family that has always traveled and lived overseas, so they're very understanding of the kind of desire to explore the world.
And they come.
And they come and visit. But for you, your parents never came to New Zealand.
No, they never came to New Zealand. Actually, my parents have never left. Oh, well, my mom has now. But my parents had never really left Spain when we were living over there. So they wouldn't jump on a plane and be there for like 30 hours.
No, and that just means when we go back to New Zealand, you have to be there for a couple of weeks, and that's a big chunk of time. So it's challenging. So that's just the reality of the move. So something to really, really keep in mind. So Is it worth it? Are we happy? Are we happy to have moved to Spain? Speaking for me, for starters, yes, I love it in this country. I find the experience of living here exhilarating. It's true that my job is very connected to the experience of living in Spain. This whole channel's about that. Devour is about helping people understand Spain. I mean, I feel very connected to this country and I adore living here. One of the things I love is that living here kind of keeps me young.
Yeah.
Because maybe living in a different country, if you move by choice, you have that experience because there's so much adventure to it. There's also something I like about being both an insider and an outsider. You're always a little bit different. You know, you arrive and you're obviously not Spanish, but you're integrated into the country. And I kind of like having my foot in both camps. And maybe that's just personal to me. I'm not sure if everyone would love that, but I love it. So I don't know, Yoly, is this forever?
God, I don't know. You and me?
Our marriage is forever.
Sure.
I mean, living in Spain.
So, I mean, it feels good. You know, we've been here for 8 years. We've been back for 8 years. And it still feels wonderful. I do love living abroad. You know, it's something I really enjoy, pretty much for the same reasons as you do. But it still feels great, you know, to be back here in Spain. So, right, you know, for the moment, yeah, this is forever.
Exactly. Guys, we make a bunch of videos here in our home about the experience of living in Spain and Spanish culture. I'm going to link to a playlist of those videos below, so click that link and we'll see you over there. Hasta luego. Ciao.